guess, an interesting topic you will hear about in a few moments. And for those of you who are new to our events, we are a community of women working in digital, and our monthly meetings are a chance for like-minded, driven women to come together to learn, share, and discuss the latest digital trends. Of course, our male colleagues are also invited, and I'm happy to see some of them in our audience today. As you may have probably noticed, we are in a Zoom meeting. Please do not shy away from turning on your camera. To avoid too much background noise or several people speaking at the same time, we have muted all of you. Still, if you have a question or a comment to make during the presentation, please use the raise hand functionality, which you should be able to find in the panel below the screen, or simply wave into the camera and someone from our team will unmute you. And as soon as we get to the Q&A session, we will give the floor to you. And of course, if it's more convenient for you, you may also use the chat. But now, without further ado, let us dive into today's session. Our guest is Elisabeta Novaković, who will talk today about the role of a user experience designer. Ellie herself is currently a user experience lead at Novartis and has extensive experience in product design, visual identity, and brand design. She is also the founder of 2 companies, a creative agency and an award-winning product company. Very impressive, Ellie. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Very welcome. Thanks, Maria, so much for a beautiful, beautiful introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and share what I know with you, and happy that some of you might take something with you today. So thank you for turning on your cameras. I think it will be really useful in Q&A session that we can have a little dialogue together around what we've heard. So if you would all agree, I would share my screen and dig deeper, and you let enjoy. Gather your questions or just place them in the chat and I'll do my best to reply afterwards. So great to see all those faces. Let me know if you can see my screen in a second and then I'll start. Seeing it?
Yes, I can confirm, Ellie.
Perfect, thank you so much. Can you make this beautiful was the question that was posed to me often. You know, like really, really attractive. This has been perhaps really, really important to the business to do. We want an intuitive solution. We want it best in class. I can truly say that many of us heard that questions as UX designers. So, well, who doesn't want best in class solutions, right? Who doesn't want it intuitive? What is the purpose of creating something that is just average after we committed to a certain point of investment? So I want to say hello and welcome everyone here, and being curious to find out what is this magic profession called user experience design. Being in an industry myself, I noticed like a layer of dust spreading around. What do we do exactly? Are we a drawers? Are we a painters, or who we are? So with that said, yes, my name is Ellie and I'm a user experience design lead at Novartis. Maria, thank you so much for a great introduction. Almost nothing I need to say about myself. So I've been putting together some bits and pieces from our profession that will hopefully reveal the value of what we can truly bring. So I originally come from Croatia, where I'm at right now. So anything I pick up that sounds like a challenge, I'm taking it with a cup of coffee. It's so Croatian, I know. But challenges in design often make me feel excited. And they're also offering me an opportunity to work on my weaknesses, such as patience. Because when I believe in something, I just have the vision and I'm looking far, far away. And I think, oh, I just want it now. And learning today what UX design is, you will clearly see that this isn't always the case. On a personal side, a little less than half of my life I spent competing in Taekwondo. During the second year of university, this journey ended. I couldn't just have it all. I'm holding the bachelor degree in visual communications here in the University of Zagreb. And my career started working in first in one of the design studios in Zagreb, touching up on corporate branding and identity. And as you mentioned, my entrepreneurial mindset did not let sit me still. So at that time, when I was 22, I launched my first paper planner, which was like award-winning startup. I sold around that time 9,000 paper planners in 3 consecutive collections. Was a great start, a great experience, non-profitable one at the end, but very happy about it. And I started to work on my own little design studio. By 26, 26-year-old, I worked on the mobile app for a small Swiss startup in Basel. And coming there for a meeting in March 2017, I just knew that this is going to be a place where I'm going to be living. A month after, with a suitcase and a half, I was there. And 4 years after, I'm speaking today in front of you. And I'm just thinking that life is sometimes unbelievable. So really glad to be here. So a small task to ask to help me with this quick engagement. If you go to the chat below, you can enter number 1 if you're a designer or part of any design team, and number 2 if you have worked with designers or you're keen and curious. So that would help me to a little bit understand the audience I'm speaking about. And Maria would ask you for help. Great, I already see some responses. If you can just tell me like approximate like a ratio of the numbers, that would be great. Thanks, guys.
Looks like the majority, Ellie, is number 2. But if you want the exact percentage, I can.
It's all right.
do the count during your presentation. But looks like, yeah.
Perfect. So I hope if you're nevertheless the designer, you will get something out of today's presentation. Probably some things will be quite similar to how you have learned things, but it's good to get confirmation. And also it's really good that we are all at the same page. So thanks for the responses. And with that said, coming back to the beginning of the presentation, asking, what if instead of asking for a beautiful product, we would actually ask for a usable one? Or maybe a lovable one instead, a product that is a delight to experience, or maybe a product that doesn't make us think, but every time we get to touch it, we are just happy that we will accomplish the action we wanted. Either it's a doctor's visit, or either it's appointment schedule, or maybe a simple shopping experience. And what if we would, instead of business importance, focus on the importance of the user? Knowing that what we are going to create brings a real value, fills up the gap, or helps someone. Well, certainly the world of digital would be the better place. And think of just how many applications you're actively using versus how many apps are approximately on the market. Each one of us has a smartphone. And a little secret to reveal, it's not a secret, you can Google it yourself, but on Apple Store today, currently we are having 2 million applications, 2 million. And Google Play, it's even more. I believe it's 2.8 million. So on the top of that, I'm sure that each and one of us today would have a brilliant idea or something that we think that doesn't exist yet. So, and this is really beautiful and could largely be true as well. Because not all the applications are for all the iPhone users. And this is what it's going to be about today. I'm sure that some of us here have similar app interests, but they could be very different too. Is someone recognizing this sign?
Zalando.
Perfect. It is correct. It's Zalando. So it's a German-founded online shopping experience. And just imagine, it's a Sunday evening, a really relaxed one, holding a glass of wine and just wanted to do one little thing, literally taking me seconds to accomplish my action. So my boyfriend enters the room and he's in the background and wants to serve me some more wine and asks me, "But what are you doing, honey?" Hehe. Yeah, not getting into categorization of shopping addict just yet. It's not a part of the talk, but really thinking, wow, this team must have been thinking about millions of scenarios and user journeys, especially enabling me to basically find my article through the smart search as A, as B, suggesting even my size, and enabling me to select it alone, to add it to the basket, actually cashing it out right away, and purchasing it, and it's done. 3 steps to purchase, no thinking. So what's that today that we can learn in this talk. So what's cooking in UX seems to be pretty hot. It's a hot new topic, but it's not so new. We are thrilled to see beautifully looking applications, like we are seeing like the winner standing on the throne, and we are often forgetting that there are many steps for us to accomplish in order to achieve such a beautiful wow look and even the user experience. What we often see is just like a look on the screen and we don't think what is behind, but why would we? We are the users. So I want to explain you the user design process over cooking example, because I believe every one of us can identify him or herself with. So let's imagine we want to cook for a group of friends. And before we can actually enjoy the meal, and even before we can start to cook, we need to ask ourselves several questions. And these questions starts with research. So the first question would be, whom are we cooking for? So to have a result of persona or guests we want to invite. Then we would ask ourselves, why are we cooking? What is the purpose of this cooking? And the third one would be, what are we cooking? So having in mind that who are personas, why is the purpose, and what are we going to do is the product idea. When you're going to cook based on people invited and occasion, perhaps you can question that serving pizza at the embassy anniversary won't make a lot of sense. So now when we would have, let's say, potential guests and users and purpose of the product, maybe we have a product idea. Sometimes in life or in design, when we have personas and purpose, we don't have a digital product idea. Maybe we just have like a little increment that can help a specific group of persona. So now when we have that, can we do something with it? So yeah, for sure. We can discover what we can do with it. So it's a great start. But when cooking, there are many details that you want to fill out before you actually start. So what ingredients do we need? Are there any remarks that we want to mention? Are there any food allergies? We don't know, but those would be mentioned in user stories. So user stories in design are a lightweighted method for quickly capturing who, what, and why, and it's filling the product requirements, or in our case, meal ingredients. Second thing would be, how might we cook it? So taking all the food ingredients and remarks, we want to realize how might we cook it? Would it take an hour? Would it take 2 hours or not? And that way we would have a product roadmap. So after we discover, we know for whom do we cook and why and how, we want to go and actually cook the meal. So important part of cooking in design would be the prioritization. So what do we cook first? Is there something that is not so important to serve, having in mind that our waiters are fully booked or have no budget to pay, or there are no more people to onboard? What we can do so we do the best product with what we have. So the minimal product, so our guests will be actually happy to taste. So after we said that, there are two hot topics within the cooking plate. One is the user experience, and the other one is user interface. User experience would ask us on how does it work, how to serve 10 hot meals at the same time, while user interface would actually introduce how it looks, how to make 10 meals looking appetitlich. So asking yourself those two questions, we would put together functionality and the aesthetics. And there is the difference in design. So when we have aesthetics and functionality together, we have a successful design product. So do you see this in the scratches on the screen, or is just me? All right, perhaps it's just me.
I see it.
You see it. All right.
Somebody drawing on the screen.
Yes.
I see it too.
Okay, really weird. All right, so I'll stop and then share again. So I apologize for that. All right, sharing it again. Let me know once you see it.
It's okay now.
Perfect. So coming back to UX and UI, good design serves both. You might be hearing buzzwords like wireframes and prototypes and whatever. This all comes in cooking phase. But after you cook, it's pretty much when your first meal is finished, so call it proof of concept. Choose some guest volunteers and let them taste. And then you can see how the meal itself tastes. Testing is important, or tasting is important. And why is it important? Because you might be working with assumptions. Even though you have asked your guests about their preference, there are so many different ways to prepare the meal. So are they liking what they taste? Okay, got it. Don't take it personal. Or maybe they are just like a very polite. And the third scenario might be they're not only 3, but well done, you master, you got this. So testing is also important here. So design process and engagement can vary. So the deliverables too. This is just like a small little piece, since the bigger part of target audience today has the wish to collaborate with design teams or designers and to get this right. So it's research, discover, design, and test. So UX design is an iterative process. You can almost not overdo it, ever. There is always something to improve, something new to discover, is cyclic. So if you have your iPhone and we are back on your smartphone apps, how often did you notice that your app has been refreshed? Check on the latest update of the banking app, which you can't even open if you don't install the new version, or the scan and pay option or swipe right to purchase the ticket. So I'm happy you got the concept now. And the good thing is that this can basically be applied to anything you want. So I know enough of cooking, but perhaps it was a good example to pick up your favorite app idea, whatever that is, regardless of if it's medical or financial, wanting to put it in the production. You could simplify it and basically talk to your super users, identify them, and work with them, for them, to design the mobile app or whatever desktop version that you might be needed. Important thing is actually being able to invest in proof of concept, where you are going to have a small increment of your app launch, either as a prototype or as an HTML dynamic prototype, so you can validate it and test it with your users further. Well, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but UX design is a new buzz. It's quite an old discipline and a process. And how long does it last? One possible answer is like as long as how big your product is, but the other possible answer is the quote of a friend of mine who is a CEO of a big company, who is actually always comparing it with building a house. And it's actually a funny quote, and I always refer back to it, and says building successful digital product is like building a house with only small difference. Building a house, you actually finish at some point. Like digital life cycle of a digital product never stops if you want a successful product. So as I said with my patients back there, it requires a lot of patience and a lot of improvements along the journey. Some of the lessons we learned today, I just want to keep like also more time for Q&A and more time for discussions. Before I remind you on the five keywords, it's people we are cooking for might have different tastes. The second one, we can't cook without knowing what are we cooking. So often people in agencies, corporate studios come in and say they want something brilliant without any purpose of it. And we can't cook without knowing how are we going to cook whatever that is. So a good plan is also important. So if you get a chance and opportunity to work with design teams, just ensure that people are not skipping this first part, because if not the same importance and even more important than just building an app that looks nice and no one uses. And even if they use it, they hate it. The worst thing that can happen is that you get an app at work that you need to use and you don't love to use. Like this is totally making no sense. So yes, one thing also from the beginning, everyone wants to create intuitive solutions. What you as audience today, I'm going to share with you like the 5 things that I believe you can have in mind while creating digital solutions that you can remind your digital team, or maybe just be, be competent in this region and ask them certain questions. When we are designing, are the important elements of design visible on the screen? The more visible an element is, the more likely user is going to hit on it. The second thing, touch base also on testing. Does the user take an action? Is it clear for them to take the action, or what action they actually did on the screen? Or they are already taken back and don't know what to do on the screen? Then are we actually limiting the interface with limited amount of actions? Because this is important. There is almost nothing worse than giving your user an endless amount of options that they can't accomplish. is it possible to figure out how to use an object by interacting with it? Like, is there a train ticket and I exactly know how to purchase it? And last but not least, a very a lovable one from my side, is the product efficient in helping users to accomplish the task? Is there a room to increase efficiency, shorten flows, or quicker results? So basically, my conclusion on user experience design, now having a design studio, agency, and corporate experience, would be to do good, do less, but do it better. Do small things, but do them very focused. Take one screen or 3 screens and pull them together to see if they work. Take one persona instead of 15 personas. And be involved and involved to evolve, because it's really important to involve users in anything you do, that because you're not designing for business or you're not designing for yourself. The product you are dreaming of today is going beyond yourself, is going beyond your senses, beyond design you like or dislike. If you design for others, if you strive to do it right, fulfilling user needs, it can indeed go beyond the experience. So short, but happy to discuss. Thank you so much for the attention. And I'll be happy to hear from someone not in my profession or not in my branch to explain what did they hear, what user experience is, and how does the process look like.
Thanks so much, Ellie. I think you already gave the floor to our audience. So if there are any questions, comments,
designers, if there are any, is there something that you are doing differently? Do you do it more extended? Is there something that can be shared?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, great. Hi. Thanks, That was a great presentation, and I could jump into the whole user experience beyond that experience. Here's my question for you. What would you say, let's say you're out of your comfort zone, you're with a bunch of people who need a user experience, you're not sure what they're doing. What is the typical barriers? Because as I understand it, it's not just applying those rules of user interface design, but also it's a matter of, as you say, involve to evolve. You need to be able to get your head wrapped around the needs of the other audience. What is it, or is there something which commonly crops up that trips up or is a major challenge during this process? Thanks very much.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks, Brandon, for the question. So what often comes up in my experience is that people are resistant towards investing actually in such process, towards investing in research, towards investing in talking to the users. Sometimes they feel like it's loss of time. If you can get one peer or the ambassador or someone who believes in that, and basically try to perform the user research, let's say in a smaller scale, to bring evidence, that would often help. So if you would have 3 people where you could at the end say, listen, we did that and we did it this way, and this clearly works better because users love it. Bringing evidence often helps and doesn't hurt a lot on a budget, and doesn't hurt a lot on timings as well. So from project to project, there is really a different approaches. So I've been working with very resistant people and with less resistant people, and obviously it's much easier when people are very open towards the process. But yeah, it's never a blue sky. So bringing evidence would surely help. So yeah, if you can ensure a small thing and say, listen, I really believe in it, let's ensure a small thing. We need to be open for new things. So like, we don't have to buy up the whole thing. Let's just try with a small increment.
Can I just ask a quick follow-on question?
Yeah.
Do you have a situation where you end up with a featureless tsunami? So now all the users are they come with thousands of possible features, and you've got to somehow or other figure out what is right and what is wrong. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
Yes. So, I mean, features requests and features basically mentions when we are doing the interviews, we are dividing interviews in like three major parts. One talks about them, the middle part talks maybe about the data or about the specific needs for specific product, and then there is a like conclusion and anything they want to add. And like there we already can like kind of imagine what features they might want to have. But normally like the amount of features, it comes up in the workshop, so it's discovery phase. It's like the second step of what I showed. And when we have features, we prioritize them. Normally how we do that, we are trying to have a look on what is the interest and how many people are actually wanting the specific features versus how important it is for business to have this feature implemented. And then basic simple prioritization can set up releases. So you would have the MVP with certain amount of features we agreed on, and then every next time you would have something that you add up on. And also it's how you sell it and how you pack it. Of course, in a way, you need to keep some sweet stuff for later, right? It can't be all from once, then you don't leave any trigger, any teaser for later on.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Brandon, for the question. 2 hands are up. Christina?
Yes, we have Christina.
Yes, hello. Thank you for the explanation. I think cooking sounded like a good example. I don't have any experience in this, but I live near Basel, and I'm an artist, and I am at the part of life where I'm looking for a career change, and UX and UI looks very interesting to me because there's a little bit of creativity, it seems, and some design, and I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos and reading articles and listening to podcasts. And so my question is, I'm also looking at like job posts in the area. And so my question is it something, I don't know if this can even be answered in a couple of minutes, but to get from not doing this to getting a job in the area,
all right.
just a tiny.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. A tiny bit. Like I had a similar example. A person from Zurich who is an architect wanted to switch. Well, the advantage was that as an architect, you are obviously going through the similar discovery process, so she was already aware a little bit of it. I would advise you to, like, I don't know if you have any experience on working on any UX design product, but it will really be great to get a mentor or to get to volunteer on some of the projects in order for you to, first of all, get to know the process and how the whole thing works. And like, don't get discouraged. Perhaps every product you're on looks a little bit different or like completely different. It's totally normal and you'll pick it up. But I would get a mentor if I would be you, and I'll try to volunteer on 1 or 2 products if you have time for it, to build up your portfolio. And when applying, it's not a problem to be a beginner. Not everyone is searching for experts. I think that
Is this just me, or did we lose
Yes,
Ellie?
yes, it's not just you.
Sorry, you hear me?
You freeze, Ellie.
Okay, sorry. Does it work?
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know, where did I freeze, but
you were at that not everyone is looking for an expert, and that sometimes a beginner is okay.
Yes, I think it's totally fine to start something new. And when applying, to focus on the journey of the products you were on, describing how did you do the research, was it qualitative or quantitative, what did you learn, and more like how did you come up with a solution you are presenting rather than showing beautiful screens. So I think everyone can have a lot of products that they want to showcase looking beautiful without not a lot of functionality. I would rather focus on having a rationale in behind, maybe looking less beautiful but serving the needs, and focus on describing a journey. But getting mentor would be advice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome. Happy to help.
Thank you.
Blanca, I think you are next in line.
good evening, and I realized that I already directly call you Ellie. Apologies if in
It's perfect.
Swiss environment I'm never sure in English. Okay, but anyway, good evening. My name is
Good evening.
Blanca. More than a question, I was just basically I'm almost sharing the similar feedback as Christina. It is one of my first experiences with the user experience design topic, and wow, you describe it so attractively that it's almost like, wow, it's not as boring as the impression, or in other words, as the image it is, the IT and so forth. So that's just a really easy comparison to the cooking, and also very fun one. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I just want to share the feedback.
Really nice. Thank you so much. I'm glad you liked it.
I'm scanning also our chats. There is a question from Vladimir. How do you react to a challenge when somebody already knows everything? They just want to make it look beautiful.
Yeah, Vlad knows my challenges. Yeah, it happens every day, right? It's a great thing. Yeah, I think it's literally like sometimes it's not actually being mean. It's just following your gut feeling. There's almost no way or no day then business is not telling me. But yeah, I know the users. Like I know what they want. Like this is exactly what users want. Again, I would say bring the evidence because you might be just slightly having a coffee with a user, 2 or 6. If you have a coffee with 6 users, you can really get the pattern out of the idea. Like if this is what they really want, and maybe business is really right, and that's totally fine. But I try to tell them that they might know a lot, and also we might have like a lot of assumptions. But let's try, if we assume that way, let's then take a day and try to prove it. And if we are all right and everyone likes it, it's all totally fine. So I just like turn on the being open to talk to some of them and proving the concept. I would check the numbers of the adoption, because if they really know what they want, they have already implemented what they really want, why the app is used 40% of their day instead of 90, or their month, or why they are not using the app if this is what they want. So bringing the evidence would definitely be the key. Thanks, Vlad.
Thank you. Laura, if you would like to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for the presentation, and I'm really happy to be in such a good company here. So I have a question. So speaking of research, and either initial research or usability testing, I always have problem with my participants. You always have to encourage them to speak out loud and to get into their head. But do you maybe have any methods or advice to identify the say-do gap by the research participants? Because, I never know how much do they just want to please me, or, what are their actual thoughts?
Yes, it's a good question.
Ellie, I think you were frozen for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
No,
are you hearing me now?
We do.
Okay. Sorry, that might happen. My internet connection is unstable. So yeah, I hope it won't anymore. But in case that I'm here. I've heard the question though. So it's a good one. When we are performing interviews, regardless of the environment, agency, outside, corporate, we are trying to encourage them to speak out loud. There are 2 ways. If you tell them you're going to record, they are a little bit scared because they think this is going to be like showed off everywhere and used against them. The best would be that maybe you have perhaps someone scripting out what the other one says, and that you really try to, they need to believe you, that you try to encourage them, that you're doing the best for them, that you want to monitor like how are they using the app in order to help them, that you really want to hear your opinion and that you care. And often there is no tip, it's just on the feeling. And taking the amount of people that you might get like some patterns of, like 6+, I think it's almost impossible that every one of them is very closed. So talking to one user, you might stumble across that, two, perhaps three, maybe, but having like the more amount of people that are diverse, but maybe still filling up the same persona, you might get the answers. There is no guarantee. I mean, even in real life, when we speak to people, we don't know if they're telling us the truth because they want to please us or just because it's really true. So yeah, no tip there, sadly, but I'll just try to take some more people to talk to see if this is really confirming the hypothesis we want to draw.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Laura.
Danielle, I think you are next in line.
Hello. I see a couple of my coworkers online, and so it's cool to see you guys. It's a small city. So what if I have just like, if we just want to start with like one page and we want to like redesign it better and more user friendly, what would you recommend? Just some simple things to start with, I guess, to go to some users, right?
Do you already have a page?
Yes.
All right, so you designed something and you want to get some feedback on it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Perhaps what would be good there is, because it's only one page, you can't get a lot of feedback on the actions they want to take out of it. So just having a page, they can probably comment on look or what they like to see. I would normally, if there would be at least like 2 pages and you want them or one action to accomplish, I would definitely advise to try to do the user testing to see, are they reaching out the action that they want, and how are they doing that? If they are failing, and I would observe them and watch them and then evaluate. Just having one page depends on the purpose. Why would you want to get their feedback? Would it be to see how the page looks, or?
Yeah, well, it's a search page that I'm thinking of in particular. So the action is pretty clear, and it's just like, it's kind of complicated, and I'd like to make it more user friendly.
Well, from there, if it's search, I think you can create like very easy search prototype you could test to see how are they using and if for them it's complicated or not. So the action is pretty clear, and then it will be really cool to monitor if they're accomplishing this action and how. Maybe like also presenting and showing how does the search work, and then gathering their feedback on it. And try to avoid just having like, okay, it will be definitely a personal opinion. But if you gather to search like maybe on looks of the page or where to place what, this is unspecific enough, and probably you're going to get a lot of personal opinions you don't know what to do with. So I would rather focus on the action if there is a possibility. If I can help somehow, just yeah, ping me later, and maybe I can give a little bit more specific answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, thanks.
I see a question for Pierre. What do you trust, data or your guts?
I trust the data, but yeah, gut feeling never made it wrong also. But yeah, and data is the king. We should always trust the data. It's a good one. Thanks, Mariam, for the comment. Janina as well, Bettina as well, and whoever left, thank you for the kind words.
Second priority question from Vlad. How do you utilize users' emotions in user research?
Yeah, it's a good one. Actually, not so much of a personal experience on the emotion side. Like if you are talking about the interviews itself, yeah, I might mark down like the user was super angry talking about the product, or he was super frustrated, and why. So if that ends up like being happening consecutively with different users, this is how I would remark them. But I'm not sure if that answers the questions. But also happy, I think it's a good one to store in a way when we are having some emotion popping up several times. It's interesting. How do you do it?
Thank you.
Nicola, if you would like to unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening
Hello.
from Lausanne. Hi, Ellie. Thank you very much for the presentation so far. I have two questions. I'm completely new to the topic as well. I just want to change when you redesign or relaunch a website, an existing website, in contrary to starting from scratch. And the second question would be regarding trends. Do you see any trends in UX design for the next 1, 2, 3 years that you could share, maybe point out? That's it.
Mm-hmm. So it broke at some point, but I'll just repeat to ensure that I heard it all. Was it launching new versus improving old?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
and the second I've heard on the trends.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me answer the first one first. So in a way, I think if you start with research, you might come after discovery to an answer if there are things that you might wanting to improve, maybe budget or timeline wise, are actually much more complicated to improve than to start and launch from scratch. I think it's really hard to give an answer, but if you're following the process on research and discovery, you're gonna come there. You could make several type of exercises. The simple ones are like what works well, what doesn't, and if you have like tons of things that don't work and a new project would actually bring them, I think the answer is pretty clear. On the trends itself, yeah, of course, following them. I think the device size of the device matters. Everything I'm seeing now in agencies that they are starting to design mobile, Apple Watch, small size screens with super simplified actions. Anything that would go in that direction, I think would be future. All of our, everything is correlated as well to voices, to senses, and to small devices. So of course, design should be responsive and should be adaptable to any screen, but having something that works really well on such small device, it's definitely a plus. So if designing, if have opportunity, start from a smaller device and then upgrade and enrich the experience as you go further. Yeah. And thank you for the question, Nicola. And I love Lausanne.
And we have Brigitte's comment and question in the chat. You said that tastes differ. How can you support to find agreement on a good solution? In my experience, the day-to-day users are often quiet and the supervisors win.
I need to read it once again. Yeah. So that's like a similar question that I had that I've answered. I'm not sure, was it to Blanca that if you asked the question in regards of how do you convince the business? It was Brendan. Yeah. Anyhow, it's not always easy to really decide on things. If you have identified user needs, like turing for them, because you something that comes up several times. You hear me? It's saying unstable, so I'm paranoid. Okay. So yes, if there is something coming up several times and repeating, this is the evidence against the voice of the supervisor. You're not designing for a supervisor, you're designing for your user. So I'd just stick to that one. And yeah, if they still decide against, you did everything you could with what you had. So that would be the answer to Brigitte.
Marian is asking, any guidance on product definition that can guide with some principles for product strategy and the technical delivery team?
Yes, product definition. I think each product should have the objective statement. And with this objective statement, basically we would display, we would explain as a user, we would have that and that need, so we can, like designing a product, our users can benefit of this and that. So product definition and objective statement of the whole product or anything you do will be crucial here. So it would definitely guide the delivery as well, because having the objectives clear might help us also in prioritizing what do we do next. And I'm seeing Bridget, you're welcome, and thanks Alexandra for the words as well.
Let me back. I think those were all questions in the chat. Please do not shy away to unmute yourselves and ask or comment. Thank you very much, Brendan, for joining us.
Thank you, Brendan. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if there are no further questions or comments, we would like to thank all of you for your participation. Ellie, thanks again for being our guest tonight. It was pure pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you a lot to all of you. Actually, without you, I would not have been here. So it was a real pleasure. If there is anything you need, feel free to reach out. And I've really enjoyed your evening with all of you. Thanks for all the questions. And I hope that your collaboration with designers would be smooth, that you will find it interesting, similar as cooking, if you like cooking. If you don't like, then not. And wish you all a beautiful evening.
A beautiful evening also from Women in Digital, and we would be very happy to see all of you during our next event. I don't know if I have anyone from my team in the call, but from what I can remember, I think we have a very interesting topic on cybersecurity next month. So please stay tuned, please follow the meetup announcement, and have a great evening.
Thanks a lot. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.